Okay, good day, St. Paul. So, let us continue now our discussion about angle of elevation, depression, and bearing. So, these will be our objectives. First, we will define angle of elevation, depression, and bearing. Illustrate angle of elevation, depression, and bearing. Solve for the problem related to angle of elevation, depression, and bearing. And explain the steps in solving for the problem related to angle of elevation, depression, and bearing. So before we will continue, so let us recall what we did in our previous lesson. So the first question is, what are the steps in solving word problems? Can you still remember? What are the steps in solving problem? So the first one is we have illustration. So under your illustration, we have your given. So we need to apply all the given information in your illustration. Next, we have the solution. So under your solution, we have your equation and of course, the solution itself of the problem. And then the last one, we have the final answer. So our final answer must be in statement form. Next question. What are the keywords that will help you identify whether the problem is angle of elevation? How about depression and bearing? Okay, so the keyword for angle of elevation is we have when you look up, so that is an angle of elevation. When you look down, that is angle of depression. And for the bearing, we have for navigation. Okay, so let's have our first problem now. So the angle of elevation to the top of the flagpole is 38 degrees from a point 12 meters from the base of the pole. Find the height of the pole. Okay, so as what I have said a while ago, first thing that we need to do is illustration. So we have to apply all the information needed from your given problem. So this will be our unknown, represent as variable x. And then this will be our angle of elevation, which is 38 degrees. And the distance from the base of the pole going to a certain point, which is 12 meters. Now, based on the given illustration, what trigonometric ratios we will use in solving for the height of the pole? We have the opposite over the adjacent, and that will be, okay, tangent. So tangent 38 degrees is equal to x over 12. Now, since the unknown is in the numerator, so the operation involved now will be multiplication. So that will be now x is equal to 12 times tangent 38 degrees. So using your scientific calculator or using your Desmos scientific calculator, we come up with 9.38. So in statement form, the height of the flagpole is 9.38 meters. Next, let's proceed now for problem number 2. One of the cables that help stabilize a telephone pole is 78 feet long and is anchored on the ground 15 feet from the base of the pole. Find the angle that a cable makes with the ground. Okay, so again, we will have now our illustration. So we will now apply all the information needed from your problem. So we have our telephone pole, and then we have our cable. So the length of our cable is 78 feet. and the distance from the base of telephone pole, and then with your cable, end of the cable is 15 feet. And we will now solve for the angle that cable makes with the ground. So we represent that one as variable x. So based on the given information, so we have adjacent over hypotenuse. So what trigonometric ratios we will use? So we will now use cosine. So we have cosine x degrees, since we don't know the measure of that given angle, is equal to 15 over 78. Since we are solving for the angle, so we have to use now arc cosine, and that will represent as cosine raised to the negative 1, and then the quotient of 15 and 78. And that will give us the final answer, or the answer, which is 78.91 degrees. So our final answer will be the angle that a cable makes with the ground is 78.91 degrees. So that is for problem number 2. Okay, let's go for the last problem. So a motorboat moves north 30 degrees east for 4 hours at 45 miles per hour. How far north does it travel? Okay, so again, we will have our illustration. So since this is navigation, so we have to use north, east, west, south in illustrating our problem. So based on the given information, north 30 degrees east. So we have north going to east. So we have 30 degrees here, which is the angle. And then, since in our given, we have time and the speed is given. So we need to solve first for the distance. So when we are solving for the distance, all we have to do, get the product of the time and the speed. So we have 4 times 45. So that is why we come up with 180 miles. And then, our unknown is how far north does it travel. So this is how far north. So we represent as variable x. And then, going back again to our illustration. So we have now, this will be our angle. So we have adjacent side and hypotenuse. So we are using cosine 30 degrees is equal to x over 180. Again, the unknown is in the numerator. So we have to, use multiplication. So we have 180 times cosine 30 degrees. That will give us 155.88. So our final answer will be 155.88 miles far north does it travel. So that will be our discussion this morning. So please do not forget to answer our seat work number 4. Okay, so you have to answer that one in quizzes. So please check your Google Classroom, and then you will see the link provided for your seat work. So that is for today. Okay, so have a nice day. Enjoy the rest of the day. Stay safe. Bye.